if I was a defender, how was I detecting this attack? If the parent process is CMD or PowerShell, and the child process and ntds.dit whatever, prevent it. Okay, let's create a shortcut, which again, if I run it as a shortcut, as you can see, the parent process now, it's not CMD, not PowerShell, it's Explorer exit. So for Sentinel-1, it was enough. I could use the regular, well-known command sequence and bypass it.
Hey everyone, Yaniv Hoffman here, and today we are diving into one of the most dangerous and misunderstood parts of cybersecurity, malware. And joining me is someone who lives and breathes this topic, Uriel Kosayev, a malware analyst, a reverse engineer, founder of Tradecraft Academy, and author of Malware Analysis on Steroids. I have it here, and super recommended. We are going to speak a lot about it. And he wrote another book that unfortunately I don't have it here, Antivirus Bypass Techniques. So if you want to understand how malware really works, how attackers think, how they hide, and how they evade defenses, this is the guy to learn from. So in today's interview, we break down how modern malware bypasses detection, what real reverse engineering looks like, the must-know tools maybe for analysts, and an hands-on on malware analysis demo at the end if we have time. So if you are experts in that, so you can skip, but I don't recommend. Uriel has a lot to say here, I'm sure. So whatever you are learning cybersecurity or aiming to get into malware analysis and reverse engineering, this episode is pure value for you. And with all that, welcome Uriel.
Thank you, Yaniv, for the introduction. Thank you for having me here. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm in Tokyo now. So it's great opportunity. And
I'm jealous. I want to be in Japan for myself. It's amazing.
It's amazing country indeed, and I travel here a lot. And I'm happy I caught you. We tried to schedule a few times, but it took some time. But I'm very excited you are here with us.
Thank you very much.
So Uriel, maybe we jump in, and your book about the malware teaches people to think like attackers, act like defenders. So what does that mindset actually look like in real malware analysis from your point of view?
So from my point of view, basically in my many years of experience, I developed a way of thinking or a way of approaching this field of cybersecurity in the fact that in order to know your enemy, you must become your enemy. You need to go inside his point of view and understand how he operates in order to detect and prevent his attacks. And becoming a great defender, you cannot do it if you don't really go into the point of view of the attacker. And vice versa, if you want to be a great red teamer, for the good guys, of course, you need to understand how the defender thinks. How he writes his detection rules, what kind of system he uses, and all that. And as a malware analyst, you actually, people think of it as like it's a kind of a blue team kind of colored profession. But it's blue, but it's also red, because by learning from malware, you can basically reverse engineer their techniques, whether it's from their behavior, from their static indicators, from the functionalities and everything, and you can re-implement it in your own malware. By the way, this is exactly what attackers do. For example, if you take the DarkSide ransomware group, you can see other ransomware like let's say Logbit that took a lot from the DarkSide code. You can see it in one of my YouTube videos. Actually, you see this like exact code blocks that are copied from the DarkSide ransomware into their own, and they succeed. So you can learn a lot from the tradecraft of attackers from reverse engineering the malware. You can re-implement those techniques in your own malware, and of course write better detections. So this is the thing that I like to teach and write books about, and to write blogs. And in the end of the day, I think, and I don't only think, but I believe that in this way we can actually make cybersecurity stronger.
Right. And you touched a very good point. So can you give us a simple example of a malware behavior maybe that defenders overlooked because they are not thinking offensively?
I actually have a practical example to show today. I thought to myself, what kind of example you want to show everyone? Do you want to show something that is very technically sophisticated, all of those shellcode loaders and evasive malware and all of that, mumbo jumbo stuff, and maybe, to show some kind of a new novel encryption method or something like that? It's like, and I thought to myself, no. Actually, one of the things that I like to show, and one of the things that I will show today is something actually from my last course. It was a live workshop called EDR Internal Research and Developer, which me and my partner Pavel Yusefovich actually conducted. We actually finished it like last week ago. And one of the examples that I showed here, I want to actually expose today. And it's actually something so simple. It leverages LOLBin, like a built-in no Microsoft signed binary that with it you can actually dump the ntds database of the Active Directory. And we all know, I believe most of your audience know, that the ntds database, once you dump it, you're the king of the domain.
Right.
You have everything. You have the NTLM, the DCC2 hashes, you have the users, you have everything. Everything is in the ntds.dit, which is the Active Directory database. And it's so simple and so, in some ways, I call it so stupid that defenders overlook it in their threat hunts. And of course, EDRs just miss it.
Right. So Uriel, another question that I'm thinking a lot, and I get a lot of question about, is the shift in modern malware that is happening in the last 5 years. Many people asking me, is it behavior like you say, evasion, delivery method? What do you see in the last few years as the new modern malware?
So there are lots of new trends in malware development. First of all, I want to say that malware are part and parcel and very important part of the attack chain in general. When basically you can see it as like onion, like a big onion with a lot of chunks. And if we go to the outside onion, basically you can start with the first thing that an attacker actually needs is an initial access to your organization. So there are many ways to get an initial access to your organization. Either you can do let's say a vishing call. You can call someone and tell him, I'm the IT administrator, install AnyDesk, or Zoho Assist or TeamViewer or something like that. Of course, it's signed binary. No EDR will detect it and he will get an access to your organization. Or try to maybe send a phishing email, harvesting credentials, or even attaching a malicious document or an ISO file with inside a RAR archive or something like that, which will be extracted and executed on your computer. There are many ways to actually get an initial access. So the trends that you see, first of all, phishing attacks are becoming more sophisticated. Even I saw a phishing attack of one of my students that is actually one of the biggest managers today in one of the biggest companies here in Israel. He actually simulated a phishing attack in his own organization, and he actually bought a Microsoft.com domain, but it's not Microsoft, it's RN in the start, and RN seems like M. So it's like Microsoft.com. And he learned it from an actual APT group. So he learned this technique from an APT group, and it was very, very funny. And actually, half of the company was falling into the phishing. So the phishing attacks becomes much more sophisticated. You see more vishing attacks, also voice solicitation attacks, and of course AI. You see a lot of AI today. One of my maybe 1 month ago, I retweeted an interesting tweet from ESET Research.
Okay.
They actually discovered a ransomware sample that is generated for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS automatically by using many those AI models like GPT-21, and it's insane. It's insane that full-fledged ransomware, evasive ransomware, by the way, is developed for cross-platform Mac OS, Linux, Windows. And it's insane. It's just insane. And they use their Lua scripts and insane stuff. Today it's even it's very easy to bypass, let's say, the static engine in an EDR. You can just develop. A lot of attackers they shift from C++ development to let's say LLVM based languages like Rust, for example.
Right.
Rust is an LLVM based compilation method. So when you write your code and you compile it to an executable, the assembly opcodes, the machine code itself will look differently for not only for the analyst when you go and, let's say, drop the code or the file to either Pro or to Git or whatever, but also for the EDR itself. So the EDR now will try to go and, to look for specific opcodes, to use the YARA rules, or to detect the presence of specific Windows API functions, to see whether there are process injection or encryption methods and stuff like this, and maybe data exfiltration methods. And it will be much harder for the static engine to detect something because, again, the assembly opcodes are different. There are a lot of jumps, a lot of garbage, a lot of all of those mumbo jumbo stuff. And also for the dynamic engine, there are many techniques that I see attackers use. They use one of the techniques that I present in my antivirus bypass techniques book. It's called memory bombing, which by the attacker just allocates a big chunk of memory in the process memory. And a lot of EDRs, they don't want to make your computer slower. They don't want to consume too much resources, so they will prefer to let the potential malware or binary to run on your computer, and they will not stop it. And attackers also abuse and exploit it. So there are a lot of trends, and the biggest ones is the shift in the phishing area, the use of AI, the more implementation of EDR and antivirus bypass techniques than like let's say 5 or 10 years ago. And yeah, this is in general what I see in today's attacks.
I agree. The AI is reshaping the cybersecurity field, more than any other technology seen maybe before. And I want to touch also the antivirus, but I do want to say something on the book, and I read it. I think it's extremely good, and I felt it's extremely practical, which I love. It's not the regular theory books that you read. Here you can have like a step-by-step. It's very suitable for beginners and professionals together, because it has a concrete action items that you can follow and learn a lot. So again, really recommended. I will leave the link for the book. And Uriel, what are the top 3 skills someone must learn before touching malware analysis? I'm sure many are interested in this field, so maybe you can help with guide them into it.
So the first thing that someone needs to understand, the regular answers that people will let you will give is like go and learn the basic stuff like networking and stuff like that. All of that is correct, and it's one of the points that I want to also touch. But first of all is understanding why you do it, why you want to do malware analysis. Understand the why. It excites you. You learn a lot from it. So like write yourself reasons why you want to do it and why not. Also try to do a devil's advocate on yourself. Okay, rating yourself.
Yeah.
And then one of the most important things that you will develop while you becoming malware analyst or a security professional, whatever you want in general in life, is to try to think outside of the box. And the box that I mean is your own. Try to think outside from your own point of view. Try to think from the point of view of the attacker, the point of view of the defender, the other's point of view. Why? And ask the questions. Why? For example, let's say I see a Borland Delphi compiled malware, which is a kind of an old programming language.
Yeah.
Then and it's a new malware that is released like, let's say, a week ago.
Yeah.
So it begs the question, why? Why they use this language? Maybe they good in writing Borland Delphi code. Maybe it has a lot of garbage that makes it kind of to look like a packed malware, which is not, because there is a lot of garbage. Maybe they just copied another malware code, right? Whether it's source code or they reverse engineered and already compiled malware. I don't know. So there are many questions, and then to ask the how. okay, the why, and now I understand. Now, how do I get there? Now, the how to become a malware analyst is, first of all, we need the basics. So always need the basics. So one of the courses that I recommend, novices that want to get an entry point into cybersecurity, go for the SOC Analyst Level 1 course that I have in Tradecraft Academy. In SOC Analyst courses, people, like in the start of the course, they expect to see something like that, a QRadar or an ArcSight window and with all of those. No, you will not see it. You will see it. By the way, I will release the SOC Analyst Level 2, which is called Attack and Defense. There I will actually simulate many type of attacks, and I will also create for each practical attack that I will show practically. I will also show how to write a detection rule in Defender and other systems and so on, Yara and so on. But first of all, you will see in my SOC Analyst level 1, you know what is the first thing that I teach people? How a computer is built. What is a CPU? What is a RAM? How they connect with each other? What is a motherboard? This is the basics. I know many developers in cybersecurity, the so-called cybersecurity experts, that they don't know even how a computer is built, which is a shame. It's the basics.
Yeah.
Then the next thing that I will teach is networking. You need to understand how, now that you understand that, and one entity that is called a computer, how they communicate with each other. Phones, computers, tablets, everything is computerized today. How they communicate with each other. So what is the OSI model? What is the TCP/IP model? What is MAC address? What is IP address? How everything is built up. Then I will go and teach, of course, stuff related to Windows Server, Linux, protocols, Wireshark. Those are the needed basics that a SOC analyst or an entry point novice need to get basically a foothold into cybersecurity. So to understand the why, the how, then the stuff of all of the basic stuff, the fundamentals, and then you need to invest time. You need time, and you need a lot of patience. So this is the last thing that you need: patience. To build myself and my knowledge, my experience. I started actually from a very young age. Okay, I started as a PC technician, basically. From there, I learned networking and programming and stuff like this. And so everything that I teach today, it's stuff that I actually did with my hands. I didn't jump into cybersecurity. By the way, in my days, there was no cybersecurity. There was no word for cybersecurity. It was maybe infosec, or you remember what I'm talking about, Yaniv?
Yeah. Of course. I started similar to you as a technician, and then learned networking, operating systems, and then started some infosec courses, and later it became like
one of the repeated pattern that you will see is that people that start from the low, from the fundamentals, they are the most successful. But the people that try to jump, let me go to hack the box and do Nmap and do that and use Kali Linux. Wait a second, man, you don't know even what is an IP address, how it's operated, how it looks like in Wireshark when you read the packets. Like, what is the difference between a decimal representative data and a hexadecimal? Wow. Wait a minute, wait a second. How to even calculate between those things? So step by step, man. Of course, you need a lot of patience. You need to take a lot of breaks.
But before we dive in, a quick note. And most of you watching right now aren't subscribed. And this channel isn't sponsored. I fund it myself, driven by my passion for cybersecurity and sharing these stories with you. If you're enjoying the videos, only if, and want to see more, it just takes a second to hit the subscribe button, like, share the video. It really helps me keep going. Now, let's get into it.
No, this is the thing. Attackers, they think simple. Right. This is their secret. And the simpler the bypass solution that they've developed or work on top of the existing stuff that you have on the OS, like this thing that I will show right now, the easier for them that will be to bypass. So let me share the screen. So I call it ntds stealer. Simple and yet deadly. Now we want to target the ntds.dit file. I'm as a red teamer or as an attacker, I want to get my hands on the ntds.dit file. And of course, why I want to do this, because if I have the ntds.dit, I control all of the Active Directory. I have everything. Okay, I'm the king of the domain. So it's actually based on a story. It's kind of a funny story that once I was I managed several red team members and teams actually around the globe, and one of our tasks was to attack a specific continent of this one of the. I worked in a giant company, and once upon a time, let's say, and then there was actually a moment where my team members actually got their hands. They actually did a RDP, remote desktop, into the Active Directory, into the domain controller, and they saw that they have two EDRs installed on this domain control, two EDRs together on the same machine, Sentinel-1 and CrowdStrike. It was. This was the original thing that I need to bypass. By the way, today I will show this on Microsoft Defender. And actually, they got caught. They were detected. They tried to do many things, many of those sophisticated stuff. They tried to load the shell code and do this and do that, and they were both detected by both Sentinel-1 and CrowdStrike, and they kicked out. And then they came to me like, okay, we need to do something. They're already aware that we are here, so at least let's try to succeed in dumping the NTDS. And it's like, okay. And I actually got from a vacation, and it's like, okay, I will sit on this 1 or 2 hours, and I will kick it. I will succeed. And I got into my zone. Like, it's like you're going into a flow mode, and you're like swimming in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I got so passionate about it that I actually got to this. This is the output of what I did there. So NTDS stealer is so simple, so stupid, and yet deadly that it will dump any NTDS with any EDR in the planet. Now, here I'm actually showing how it's done. Now, so maybe after this video, it will be detected in some companies. So I don't really care, because I'm all about helping the good guys. Okay, so it's one of the things that I do. So NTDS stealer, it abuses built-in Microsoft NTDS util. You have the ntds util.exe in the domain controllers to dump the domain controls NTDS database. Now it's a legit utility that IT administrators use to dump the NTDS, to migrate to other servers, to do several administrative tasks.
Yeah.
Now NTDS stealer completely bypass EDRs, antivirus, or you can call them EPP, and even application control for most configurations. No malware, no shellcode, no suspicious API calls, because many EDRs, of course, respective EDR will intercept Windows API calls to understand what kind of functionality the code or the malware has. Right. And so, again, no suspicious API calls, nothing. It operates exactly like the legitimate Windows administration workflow with a slight difference. And it actually, the abuse factor here is that the fact that EDRs struggle to detect malicious intent when using leaving off the LAN technique, what's so-called a LOL bin or LOL script, okay, leaving off the LAN techniques. So the ntds.dit database contains all domain usernames, the DCC2 and NTLM password hashes, which you can, by the way, crack them offline, or you can do pass the hash attacks and authenticate to other stronger, let's say, the domain admin users and stuff like this. You have the Kerberos key, service accounts, trust secrets, password, so you have everything. Dumping the ntds.dit completely is a complete Active Directory compromise. You're the king of the domain, as I already said. Okay, so yeah, this is what you can do afterwards, of course. And what is the specific reasons that it bypasses EDR? So there is no read process memory, like Windows API functions like read process memory. Read process memory is really one of the standard Windows API functions that attackers use to literally read the memory regions of a process to dump the, let's say, from an else's process, let's say the NTLM hash of a specific user or whatever. Okay, it uses Microsoft signed binary ntds.util.exe, no shellcode, no ETW process events, no sysmon detection unless customized. You can customize it, of course. You can detect it if you're aware of this attack.
Yeah.
No direct interactions with the else's process. Most of the attackers will, or a lot of the attackers, let's say, they will target the else's process Here we're not targeting the NSS pros, we're dumping the NTDS database. EDRs classify NTDS util execution as legitimate IT operation unless policy explicitly blocks it. Either a custom rule or you block it in for some reason. Okay, maybe the IT administrator doesn't really need to use NTDS util exit, and you use, let's say, another software to do this, so maybe you can block it or whatever.
Yeah.
This is how a regular NTDS command sequence look like, and this is what actually EDRs detecting. Okay, an IT administrator will use an automated PowerShell script or a batch script, or will do it manually like this. It will do NTDS util under CMD or PowerShell, activate instance NTDS, IFM, create full. And the create full actually takes the ntds.dit and the registry keys of SEM and system. Using SEM and system registry keys, you can actually open the ntds.dit dumped file. So as an attacker, you need actually 3 of those files. You need the ntds.dit file, you need the SEM and the system registry keys.
Yeah.
So then it is dumped to the path that you specify. So here in this example, is ctemp ntds dump. We can call it whatever you want, and you quit from it. So it results in ntds.dit, registry high files, all secret needed for offline password cracking or pass the hash attacks. Regarding EDR visibility, it really depends. Okay, it really depends. There are EDRs that take this information and they actually take this telemetry, and you can do kind of a threat hunt search in those systems, let's say CrowdStrike or Microsoft Defender. And by finding this specific telemetry, you can write your own custom rule as a client, as a user of the EDR. Okay. But the detection alerts from the EDRs, because they are not aware of this technique, of course it's 0. So yeah. So now let me go for the actual example here. So let me go.
If you have an EDR, try it at home. Yes. To see if it detects or not. Yeah.
You can register to Microsoft Defender for Enterprise as a trial, for example. You can deploy it in your virtual machine. You can play with it, so you can for sure do this. For other EDRs, of course, it's not so easy to get like a 1 or 2 agents to play with. So there are ways to get them. Again, it really depends. One of the secret sauces in this industry.
Exactly. And by the way, guys, this is for educational purposes. We are not promoting, of course, illegal hacking. This is to protect the good guys, as Uriel said.
It's like I'm explaining people. You have a hammer. You have a hammer. It's good or bad, and people tell me it's like it depends. Of course, it depends. You can either kill with it, or you can just put a cool picture on your wall. It really depends on how you use it. So it's a tool. How you use it depends. So here, now let me show you, first of all, that we have here the mssense.exe, which is actually the Defender for Enterprise sensor or agent that is running here. So let me find str/I for in case sensitive and find mssense. So I have mssense running here. mssense is the actual process of the Microsoft Defender for Enterprise EDR agent. And of course, we also have the msmp eng, which is the process of the EPP or the antivirus. Okay, you have the antivirus and you have the EDR. By the way, sometimes the antivirus catches stuff that EDRs are not catching, and EDRs catching stuff that antivirus don't catch. You'll see it even in CrowdStrike, for example. In CrowdStrike, it's an EDR, but if people will notice, they also have what's called an NGAV. NGAV is next generation antivirus. So each respected EDR today has also another antivirus capability. Like the old days antivirus, but not only, of course, on signatures or specific signatures like a file hash, because file hash can be bypassed really easily. It's more sophisticated than a file hash. Again, if you want to understand more about antivirus and EDRs, go check out both of my books, Antivirus Bypass Techniques and Malware Analysis on Steroids, and you'll understand more about EDRs and stuff. So we have both MSSense and MSMPNG running and operating here. So let me also go here. And actually, I already ran before this NTDS util S1. By the way, one of the questions that I ask people, what do you think this file is? And it's like, if you notice, it's actually a shortcut file.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, what? people are expecting it to be like an exe file or a PowerShell script or something with shell codes and all of this mambo jumbo. But this is the payload. I go right click. This here is your malware. This is it. That's it. It's a lol bin. It's based on the ntds.dit exe, legitimate Microsoft signed binary, with all of those commands. Now, I already told that this command is actually detected. So now if I go here, I go to this alert that I had, like, again, I can run it again. It's from several days ago. It's the same, just to save some time for us here. If I go and do open incident page, or you know what, let me just go back and again click here. And you know what, incidents, alerts. Let me try to do here, this one, open alert page. Here we can go to see the process tree, blah, 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 you know, as a threat hunter, as an analyst or whatever. And yeah, I will see ntds.dit. I will see all the full command here. So they actually detected and prevented this attack. Now, actually, originally, in the case of Sentinel-1, it was detected only if you ran it from CMD or PowerShell. So actually, if I run here a video, I have already video from. So here we have an agent. This is the version of the Windows machine. I have here Sentinel-1. Okay. And it was kind of an old version. Maybe today they already detected. I don't know. I didn't test them for a lot of time. I didn't have the opportunity. Many of my clients use the Defender Microsoft, sometimes CrowdStrike, but Sentinel-1 not so much for the last 3 years. So now basically, if I go to System 32 here, I'll see the ntds.dit exe.
Yeah.
And now here I'm sending it as a shortcut. Okay. It's a shortcut. Now, Sentinel-1 actually detected if I read it when actually, if I go back to the story, when I actually ran it from PowerShell or CMD with the sequence, you know, with the command sequence that I showed you, it was actually detected. Then I switched my hats. I was thinking as an attacker. Then I switched my hats into thinking like the defender. Okay, Yaniv?
Yeah.
And now that I'm thinking as a defender, I thought to myself, okay, if I was a defender, how was I detecting this attack?
Yeah.
And one of the things that you can do is basically you can write a detection rule that if the parent process is CMD or PowerShell and the child process ntds.dit whatever, prevent it.
Yeah.
Then I said to myself, okay, this is a potential detection rule that I could think of as a defender. Then I switched back to my red team hat, okay? And I thought, okay, let's run it as a shortcut. Now, it changes the parent and child process relationships here, okay? Again, it's so sophisticated and so simple in the same time, okay? And here, by just thinking it as a defender, I thought to myself, okay, let's create a shortcut, which again, if I run it as a shortcut, as you can see, the parent process now, it's not CMD, not PowerShell, it's Explorer exe.
Yeah.
So the parent-child process now is broke here. So now the detection rules that potentially the detection analyst or the defender wrote here is not relevant. Now, of course, if I go and actually run the command here, okay, now actually go and run the command. Do ACIT ntds, blah, blah, blah. The regular command sequence that, by the way, a defender and CrowdStrike actually detected me, and then I will show the other bypass that I had. So I create full temp. So for Sentinel-1, it was enough. I could use the regular, well-known command sequence and bypass it. Only by breaking the parent and child process relationships. And boom, that's it. I have the ntds.dit, zero detections, go sleep with the fish. Now, if you remember my story, in the same domain controller, I had Sentinel-1, I had also CrowdStrike. Now, this is, by the way, the same bypass for CrowdStrike, is the same bypass for Microsoft Defender. And for CrowdStrike, it didn't work. They also detected this technique. And then I thought to myself, okay, what should I do? I'll go back to my, and also Defender actually, now as you see, detected the same, as you can see, ntds.dit is under Explorer, is not under PowerShell or CMD, correct? So now we'll go back to my virtual machine. So this one, detected and prevented. Now we have the second one. Now if I go here to the properties, here I see a different command sequence. Here I see ntds util, snap, again I will even open them up like this. The first command here is ACI ntds. Here the first one is snapshot. Wait a minute, why you do this? And then I do ACI ntds, and I don't do create full, I do just create and mount. Okay, now how I got to this command? I didn't have ChatGPT at the time. I didn't have Google even. It's the way of thinking. I just thought about it. Of course, I asked the help of God also here, and He provided. And here, I got to the point. It was like, wait a minute. Let's do a time-based analysis. I executed the regular bypass here that was detected.
Yeah.
And I saw that it takes CrowdStrike to detect it between 3 and 4 seconds. Why? Why is that? And then I executed each one of those commands separately. ACI ntds, and I did it, it was detected, no detection. Then I did IFM, no detection. Then I saw that after running the create full command, it was detected after 3 or 4 seconds. And I said, wait a minute. Behind this create full command, what actually happens here? So it actually takes the ntds.dit. It creates a snapshot drive, okay? And then it takes in the ntds.dit and the registry halves of system and SAM and copies it to the destination that you specify here. So there is between this simple command of create full, you have a lot of operations behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So then I thought to myself, okay, so where it actually detected that, then I felt intuitively that it's detected actually when it is copied to the ctemp folder, then the detection occurs. The fact that a file was written from this process to somewhere that you specify. Then I thought to myself, okay, now I gotcha. Okay, now I gotcha. Now let's only create a snapshot drive. Let's do it like this. Let me just check here. Now I have here under the C command. So I executed it, do create snapshot, mount 4, and here we go, actually created now a snapshot drive. Now this is the same that is done when you do the create full command. It's also happening, but the next thing that is happening, it is copied from here to the temp folder that I specify. So this is actually detected. So here that I just loaded, I mounted the snapshot drive. I can go to this drive, CA Windows, ntds, and I can break the sequence in that I just go and copy and paste it like this. Or of course I can do automate it with a C program, with a C code or with a PowerShell. So I do this and then I do a separate copy operation of the file, and boom, I have the ntds.dit file, no detections whatsoever, no CrowdStrike, no Sentinel-1, no Microsoft Defender, even the Palo Alto Cortex XDR don't detect me. Of course, I also need to take the registry keys of SAM and system and open the ntds.dit file, and boom, I'm the king of the jungle.
Yeah. Wow. So sophisticated, but so simple.
Yeah.
Amazing. So Uriel, wow, this is exactly, guys, what you can probably get and much more in intrinSec Academy. And thank you, Uriel, for showing it to us. It was really insightful. And everyone, I really recommend to check Uriel's Academy. I will leave all of his contacts into the Academy, the courses, the Discord, the newsletter here in the description and on the screen. And with that said, Uriel, thank you so much. Definitely we need to continue and make more of these. And if you like this kind of videos, you want to see more, let us know in the description. We'll be happy to address it. And thank you very much, Uriel.
You're welcome, Yaniv. Thank you.
Thank you. And everyone, see you in the next video. Bye-bye.